Have you ever felt confident and unstoppable only to be brought down by negative self-talk? Does that sound familiar? It's time to learn how to break free from these mind traps. Discover the surprising source of these negative thought patterns as we unravel the secret world of cognitive distortions. With the right tools, you will be able to control your thoughts more effectively. You will also be able to develop more helpful, positive thinking patterns that will improve your mental health and well-being. When you're feeling down, anxious, or just plain bad, it could be because of something called cognitive distortion. It's internal mental filters and bias that can make you think negatively about yourself, about your surroundings. It was in the 1960s that psychologist Aaron Beck began researching depression treatments. In his patients, he observed systematic errors, self-bias, and negative perceptions. During that time, he developed the cognitive distortion theory. A student of Beck's named David Burns made it easier to understand. In his book, Feeling Good, The New Mood Theory, Burns simplified the 7 cognitive distortions into more relatable terms. Let's now talk about cognitive distortions or thinking traps. These are negative thoughts that distort our perception of reality and make us feel very anxious or even doubtful of ourselves. But don't worry, we can learn how to identify these traps and take action to avoid or even change them. It's like keeping an eye out for quicksand in the jungle. We can't always avoid it, but if we're aware of it, we can take the steps to navigate around it and to keep ourselves safe. So let's put on our metaphorical hiking boots and start exploring the jungle of our minds. All or nothing thinking. Everything is seen as black or white without any rooms of shade. If you make a mistake at work, you might think that you are a terrible person instead of acknowledging everyone makes mistakes. In order to combat this, try to have a more balanced viewpoint. For example, say to yourself, everyone makes mistakes, including me, and I can learn and grow from this experience. This creates a more positive outlook and gives you the opportunity to move forward instead of being stuck on the mistake. So don't sweat it, just say to yourself, it's okay. I'm human and I make mistakes. It's part of the job description. It's okay. You're gonna learn, you're gonna make mistakes. It's better to make a mistake and learn from it than to not even try at all. Overgeneralization occurs when broad conclusions are drawn based on limited information or experiences. As an example, if you had a negative experience with a salesperson, you may conclude that all salespeople are pushy or aggressive. I know I used to have that conclusion for car salesmen. I would think that they were all gonna lie to me or that they were just very pushy because of one negative experience that I had. Try to think of other options instead. I had a negative experience with one salesperson who was pushy and aggressive, but I can't assume that all salespeople are like that. Mental filter. This is a way of thinking where you focus exclusively on a negative aspect of a situation and ignore the positive aspect. One person disliked my video and that the opinion means more than 99 people who did like it. To counteract this, you should try emphasizing the positive aspects as well. For example, 99 people enjoyed my video and I appreciate their support. Plus that one person who didn't like it was probably having a bad day, so it's not worth dwelling on. Disqualifying the positive. This is when a positive experience or accomplishment are disregarded or explained away. For instance, when someone compliments you, you might say, You're clearly not as bad as a person as I am. Say to yourself, I am grateful for the compliment, and it's important for me to acknowledge my strengths. After all, if you don't give yourself a pat on the back, who else will? Jumping to conclusions. This is when assumptions are made about situations or people without having the necessary information. For example, every time you don't text me back, I automatically assume you hate me. To avoid this, try practicing mindfulness and refrain from making assumptions. I don't have all the information, and it's not helpful for me to just jump into conclusion. Maybe they're just running out of battery. Maybe they just got a very important call. You don't know. Magnification and minimalization. This is when the problems are exaggerated. For example, I'll focus on my flaws with a microscope, but for my accomplishments with binoculars. To counteract this, practice self-compassion and try to see things objectively. Say to yourself, I am a human being with both strengths and weaknesses, and it's important to acknowledge both. Emotional reasoning. This is when emotions are believed to reflect reality. For instance, I feel strongly that my client is innocent, so it must be true. To combat this, try to separate the emotions from the facts. Say to yourself, I have strong emotions about this, but it's important to gather the evidence to make a fair judgment. So remember, feelings aren't facts. Should statements. This is when there are strict rules or expectations of ours or other beliefs. For example, I should do this, I must do that. Instead, try to let go of inflexible expectations and be flexible. If things don't go as planned, say to yourself, I have goals and priorities, but it's okay. Personalization and blame. This is when personal responsibilities is taking from things outside of your control. For an example, your mom and dad are arguing. It must be my fault. Try to avoid this and focus on what you can control and refrain from blaming yourself for things that are outside of your control. Say to yourself, mom and dad might be going through some tough times, and I can't control that. So why do we think in these unhelpful ways? Our minds are complex and can be prone to negative and unhelpful thinking. Cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as CBT, can help us understand why sometimes we think in such negative ways. This model explains that our thoughts are formed in 3 levels: core beliefs, intermediate beliefs, and automatic thoughts. This is similar to a pyramid. The core beliefs are the base, the foundation for the structure, and the automatic thoughts are the peak of the pyramid. In between these 2 points are the intermediate beliefs, which serves as a medium ground that connects the 2 points together. Our core beliefs are the fundamental beliefs that we have about ourselves. These beliefs are formed in childhood and can shape our perception of reality. A person who grows up with the core belief that they are not good enough may experience feelings of inadequacy and insecurity throughout their life. Core beliefs are like the root of a tree. They may be buried deep, but they have a powerful influence on how the tree grows and develops. Even if a person works hard to change their beliefs, they will still be affected by their core beliefs. Based on past experiences, culture influences, intermediate beliefs develop as we make sense of our experiences. They are more specific than core beliefs. If a person believes they are incapable of succeeding in their career, you may have a difficult time on new work challenges. Let's say, for example, you started a new job and it's completely different from what you've experienced before. This intermediate belief can prevent them from reaching their full potential because they're constantly thinking that they're not doing great when they're just learning. Finally, Automatic thoughts are specific to the situation we're currently experiencing. These thoughts are often influenced by our core or intermediate beliefs and can be triggered by external events or internal thoughts. For example, if someone has a core belief that they are not good enough and is feeling stressed about a presentation they have to give at work, they might have an automatic thought such as, I'm going to mess this up, and everyone is going to notice it. I'm not good enough. Challenging negative thinking patterns requires challenging each level of thinking. To begin, question your core beliefs and replace them with more positive and realistic ones. This can be challenging to do, as most core beliefs has been ingrained in us since childhood. But by actively challenging these beliefs, we can start to replace them with more realistic and positive thoughts, which can eventually lead to a more positive outlook on life. Next, examine your intermediate beliefs. Try to think about counter evidence for these beliefs and focus on the positive. Finally, when it comes to automatic thoughts, practice mindfulness and focus on the present moment. Identify and challenge negative thoughts and replace them with positive, solution-focused thoughts. With these steps, you can start to replace the negative thought patterns with positive, constructive thinking. By recognizing these patterns and replacing them with more positive and realistic thoughts, we can improve our emotional well-beings and live happier lives. And if all else fails, remember that ice cream is always there and will make everything feel better. Unless you're lactose, then it'll probably make it worse. I hope you find this video helpful and useful. If so, please like and don't forget to subscribe. If you're interested in looking at other videos of mine, feel free to hit one of these.